Hi, my name is Carrie Knapp, and this is my presentation on tracking my carbon footprint for the MBA 612 International Business Class. So let's take a look at the trip. We are traveling from Portland, Maine to Vietnam, specifically Ho Chi Minh City. So let's take a look at the breakdown of the different legs of the trip. The trip will begin at the bus station in Portland, Maine. Now, I did not include my travel from my home to the bus station as I live so close. The CO2 emission will essentially be negligible in comparison to the rest of the trip. But once we start at the bus station, excuse me, go down to Boston, Massachusetts to Logan Airport, one way is 0.02 metric tons of CO2 emitted. And of course, on the way back, we land in Logan and we'll need to take the bus back. So round trip is 0.04 metric tons of CO2 emitted. Now the flight is from Boston to Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam, but we do have a layover in Tokyo, Japan. So round trip, the entire flight will emit 5.01 metric tons of carbon dioxide. Also, while we are in Vietnam, we'll be taking a long weekend to Da Nang. So from the Ho Chi Minh Airport to the Da Nang Airport, round trip will be 0.22 metric tons of CO2 emitted. So for all of these plane rides, I have also included radiative forcing, which has to do with the altitude of the plane. When planes are up higher in the sky, they emit more CO2. So the total CO2 emission for this trip is 5.27 metric tons of carbon dioxide. So what can I do about neutralizing my carbon footprint? Well, there are several patterns of my lifestyle that I can change. Taking a look at all of the things I do in my daily life, I emit 5.15 metric tons of CO2. But there are some simple alternatives or adjustments I can make. Currently, I don't have any exclusions from my diet, but I would have no problem excluding red meat, which still allows me to eat red meat and fish. Currently, I also try to buy products that are in season, but I have been known to buy watermelon in January. So that is something I can be more aware of to stay in season and also local. I also am not mindful of the products I buy that have a lot of packaging. So if I can be more mindful of that and really stick to products with very small packaging, I can reduce my carbon footprint. And lastly, while I do recycle, I am not good at recycling newspapers and magazines. So that is something that I can be more aware of. So just making these 4 simple adjustments, I would alter my carbon footprint from 5.15 to 3.65, which is a total reduction of 1.47 metric tons. Currently, I drive every day my car. So if I could find some alternate transportation, that would help reduce the CO2 I emit. My car is a small SUV, so comparative to other SUVs, it does well, but compared to transportation in general, it does not. My car emits 7.84 metric tons of CO2 a year. And to be realistic, I thought if I could find alternate means of transportation only 3 months out of the year, you know, considering summertime, I can ride a bike. I have no problem carpooling. But to be realistic, it would probably only be 3 out of 12 months. But that in turn would end up saving me 1.81 metric tons of CO2. And lastly, there are roughly 2 trips a year I take for recreational purposes. And for the purpose of this project, I use the city of Las Vegas. Now, sometimes I go to California, sometimes I go to Washington State, other times I go to Texas or Florida. But I picked Las Vegas because I've been there and I'll go there again, so I know that this is in my future. So when I do take these trips, I fly out of Portland, Maine, and say for Las Vegas, a round trip from Portland, Maine would be emitting 1.13. Now, I looked into the train stations, and these Amtrak trains do go to these cities that I tend to take my recreational trips to. And using that train, round trip, only emits 0.12. So if twice a year I were to use a train rather than a plane, I would be saving 2.02 metric tons of CO2. So with all these savings, let's add up what we have saved for the year. So as you recall, the Vietnam trip was 5.27 metric tons. Making simple lifestyle changes would reduce my carbon footprint by 1.47. Also, finding alternative means of transportation, such as biking or carpooling out of 3 months of the year, would save 1.81. And for those 2 recreational trips, using a train rather than a plane would reduce my footprint by 2.02, putting my total emissions into the negative, which I find promising, since sometimes those trips I take aren't such a long distance as Las Vegas, but I think in the long run I will definitely be neutralizing the carbon footprint from the Vietnam trip. So in conclusion, I've really made some simple changes that are realistic, and it will actually end up costing me less, as some of these alternatives are free. Recycling more. I would have no problem additionally recycling my newspaper and magazines. Also, riding a bike to work and carpooling are 2 alternative means of transportation that will end up saving me money, as I won't be spending the gas in my vehicle. While the train rides will take longer in time, they're just as realistic, as trains these days are pretty fast, and I can still get to my destination within 2 days. But all in all, these simple changes do require motivation, initiative, and thoughtfulness. Thank you to www.carbonfootprint.com for allowing me to use the carbon footprint calculator. Thank you.